YouTube, Ronan Kazi, The Division. So I'm still low level. This is where Ray goes, "Glad to meet you, whoever you are," with his New York accent. Still don't have really good weapons. I always loved the X45 in The Division. One of the things that happened, I think I mentioned I got a new laptop, and now all my recordings are all screwed up. So I got to work on getting that back to normal.
Hell no! They're trying to get me killed. They're everywhere.
The Division is different enough from Division 2 where your skills, in some ways Division 2 is easier because you get those, your skill powers based on how many yellow pieces you have. And in this you can really tailor the amount of skill power you have. It's a numeric thing. And each piece of armor has, different amounts on it. And I always was some type of hybrid build. I'd have the Ninja backpack, and I'd always have different pieces on it. And so I really enjoyed that part. So with the Ninja backpack coming in Division 2, I'm hoping it's going to be similar. I guess it's not working as the time of this video. I recently got it, and it just didn't seem like it was working. If it works how it seemed like it was going to work, it'd be better than the backpack here. But in any case, onward we go. So at this point, I've unlocked the medical wing, I've unlocked the electronics wing, and now I need to do the defense, the blue. Got a SVD as a sniper. I like the sound of that. It sounded herky. And I think I mentioned this in a previous video. I love the fact that this is winter. It's getting near spring now. And in summer, I never liked playing the Division during the summer. It's kind of nice that, you could have it seasonally. I know it would break the thing for the new games, but it seems like when you're on higher level, I don't know why Division 2 is all right. It has some of that, but it doesn't really have snow or anything. And when they're offering their expansions in the Division, like the new IP, intellectual property, I'd love to play in a different part of the country. That's what is good. But I also realize that it's more of a mobile game and whatever. And if it's as good as Diablo Immortal is, then they should do it. But if it's not, I haven't heard anything about it in a while. I was excited for it, and it sounded like it was PvP and trying to be a Counter-Strike, and that seemed like a Me Too thing. Of course, I don't have to make games for a living, so who am I? All right, so I'm going to do Lincoln Tunnel. This was always one of those things on challenging. Back in the day, I had a group of people I played with. It was pretty fun. And like all these loot shooters, once you keep doing it over and over, eventually it gets too old. And that's the thing about the Division 2 that I have to say the developers are awesome. When they do those legendaries, they spawn from different points. It's a different mission. And with the Black Tusk Invasion, that's different. So from the base game to the Black Tusk Invasion to Legendary, the same map can have 3 different uses, and I really enjoy that. I remember there was a thing about how many doors you close. I didn't worry about as many of the achievements in the Division 2 as I did in the Division. This was a frustrating thing in the Division 2, right? You can pick up your skill, Division 1. So I mean, there are some fundamental things that make the Division 2, I think, a better game. I don't know if the story's any better. The story's okay. I really enjoyed the Division 1. And I have to admit, when I go back there with my main character, I don't remember how to play it. So it's good I'm doing this part of it. That's a horrible shot. I'm a bad sniper in every single game I play. So I want to start tying some things together. I've been talking to you about a lot of different things. A while back, I asked, what's your build in your life? What kind of build are you? What do you emphasize on? And if we use the Division as an analogy, you know, your tech, your medical, or, you know, defensive, or, you know, whatever the attributes for a human are. And again, what makes us different, what makes analog different than digital, right? Digital is just two. It's a binary. It's either on or off, and life isn't like that. It's convenient when we think of life as black or white. I was accused of that a lot. I think I mentioned a while back, there was a guy I worked for that was, I'd go follow him wherever he wanted to work. He was a great guy to work for. But his insight on me, he could never figure me out. And I think that's one of the differences between England and the United States, Great Britain and the United States, is that in the United States we think we do not have class, and in Britain they realize there is class. And I think we delude ourselves in the United States that there's not a class. I'm not a Marxist or anything like that, but he would always have a problem understanding me because it was like I didn't fit his notion of where maybe my job was to compare to what I thought about. And anyways, he at one time called me binary, and that was kind of supposed to be an insult. And I think when you're in the military, you're in a place where you're in charge, you have to be decisive. Yes, there's gray areas in the world, and I think the world really is gray. The gray isn't binary, and that's probably what the problem with a lot of things are. It's not black or white, it's a slider bar. If you think of everything as a slider bar, if you think about quantum mechanics, that's all probability. So when you really start thinking about the fundamentals of life, I would argue that they're a slider bar. And we'll get into quantum mechanics and free will and determinism. That's something I've been thinking about lately. But trying to get back to what kind of build you are. So we've talked about, or I've talked to you about leadership and management. I've talked to you about, you know, following your bliss and doing things artistic, supporting people with artistic ideals. Talked about looking at the game in a way as an analogy. Talked about problem solving, asking why. And so what I've been kind of laying out to you is a build for human beings. Now, I don't really care what side you particularly, it's not important to me how you think of yourself. That's for you. That's for your journey and for you to figure out. But I'm pretty confident that some of these tools that I've talked to you can help you discern that, explain that, and understand that.
Listen, I'm sending one of my people down to take care of that bomb.
And I think you see over and over again when you, especially in nowadays, you get people that are passionate about what they believe in, but they maybe haven't thought about it very much. Or they've thought about it only from one side. So then when they get in a video with someone that's a little more practiced and a little more well thought out than they are, they look stupid because they don't do that. For example, you know, if I said the Division 2 is the best game ever, blah, blah, blah. And empirically, it's not, because it didn't sell the most and whatever. The first thing you might do is you might say, to me, And whenever you get someone to say to me, or just in my opinion, or how just I see it, when you're making a wide sweeping something, that's pretty much you're conceding that you've lost the argument. Because if it's just to you, you barely know who you are. If you really thought about who you are, you would realize that you're literally living in the past. If you believe in science at all, then you believe that the speed of light is finite as defined by Albert Einstein and his relativity. You would then realize what you're seeing, the computer screen that you're watching this on, the phone you're watching this on, the tablet you're watching this on. There's a delay in the time it takes for that light to hit your retinas from there. It's small, nonetheless, it's a delay. And so I had a nice argument with someone recently about, was the day after another one of those shootings, and we talked about the Second Amendment in the United States. And this person read to me the Second Amendment. And I said, it's ambiguous. No one's trying to take away your guns. And please define what a militia is. We don't have militias. Recognize militias as defined by the Constitution. Then we had to go to the Federalist Papers. Then we got off the Constitution. Then we got on, how great the Founding Fathers were and that they wrote the Constitution. Yet we have all these amendments to it because they couldn't think of everything. And I'm not taking anything against the United States and the Constitution. I'm not taking away anything of any of it. I don't want to take away your guns. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to say, as a philosopher, those arguments suck. When you have to default, well, if your argument is a negative, that means you haven't thought about it. If you can only define myself as my ideas are good because the other side's bad, yeah, that's a argument, but it's not a very good one. It's slightly above, well, that's what it means to me. Because the area that we recognize that, well, that's what it means to me is art. What does art mean to you, and what's your interpretation of it and all that stuff? That's a very individual thing. But when we get to like the social, quote unquote, sciences, psychology, sociology, and those things, we try to ascribe some scientificness to it, but we really don't know. Had an argument with my sons a while back about my oldest son believed that language, until we had language, we couldn't understand anything. And I said, well, what about if you don't have a language? Does it mean you don't understand the world? Which means then the animals don't understand anything. And my younger son said the animals, everyone only in their base mode is a survival program that pushes them forward. And so we started getting on to free will, and he thought that free will meant that, like his argument was, well, a prisoner doesn't have free will. And that's not their traditional argument in philosophy about free will and determinism. Isn't whether you can literally go out of your house. It's kind of what you can do with your mind. Are your thoughts your own? Who put the thoughts in your head? And a strong argument for determinism is based off the fact that we can predict on a local level, we can predict with pretty good precision. And when I say pretty good precision, we can predict the flight of a ball if we know all the inputs. And let's say we don't have a human doing it. Let's say that we have a pitching machine do it. We can figure that out. We can determine where the ball is going to land each time. But I want you to realize what a narrow case that is. Ray's about to say, whoever you are to me. So I'm going to kind of listen for that here in a second. I always struck that funny. I'm here to save their bacon, but he's just going to blow me off like I'm a nondescript division agent. Oh yeah, I am. Ambrosia. So, let's talk to Ray real quick.
What we got left?
Glad to meet you, whoever you are. Glad to meet you, whoever you are. Hope we can count on you and yours.
Yeah, you can count on me, bro. So that's what I've been laying out in some respect is a build for you. Maybe things to consider. Maybe those aren't, and I don't have to say those are attributes that you have to use, but how do you troubleshoot things? And troubleshooting is quite a bit of your life if you break it down to a certain point. What do I want to eat today? What time is it? What? So you do a lot of troubleshooting every day that you just internalize. You have to communicate your thoughts to people. That's when I talked about analogies. In your relationships, you have a lead-follow dynamic. You have a manage or not manage. Under that, I would, do I want to, am I a person that just goes on my whims, or do I plan everything? And so on. And so probably what I'm going to try to do, if this COVID ever goes away, I'm going to try to tie all that in together for you. You're going to have to fill out, you're the person that decides what your build is, and your build can change all the time. And the main thing I'm trying to get to is just look at the world in a different way, and it helps you understand and make sense of the world. Some things are senseless, and that's okay. And hopefully I'll give you some ideas on how to articulate that so that you can have a conversation with someone and not to have them do common parlor tricks to make you feel that you don't understand your ideas. When I say you don't understand your ideas, if you can't articulate them, you probably don't fully understand them yet. And that's not a bad thing. We're all on that journey. There's a lot of things I don't understand. I don't understand myself as much as I'd like to. Part of that is a reflection on whether you tell yourself the truth or not. What's your motivation for doing things? And just give you a little taste about determinism. The people in determinism say you don't have free will, because if you wanted oatmeal, let's say in the morning, I watched a video on kind of this, and the analogy was you wanted oatmeal, but you have all these predetermined things that got you to that path. And at the critical juncture, they said, well, if we knew what your temperament was and this, and it gave a bunch of things that we have no clue what are, and there's no universal measurements for that, then we could figure it out. So therefore, life is deterministic, because if we knew your temperament, we would know that it's obvious why you wanted oatmeal. Another thing determinists, and I'm really just skimming over this, other thing determinists think that, there's studies that show that your mind puts an idea in seconds before you actually do it. Like, I'm going to swap my hand to the left right now, and your mind already thinks about it. So I've heard some arguments that means you're deterministic, and there's things against that. The funny thing about that first argument is that's the same kind of argument Albert Einstein had about quantum physics. He said, well, there must be hidden variables, and that was to do with quantum entanglement. Like, I can have two things that are entangled. If I spread them by a certain distance, if I look at what one is, I instantly know what the other one is. Oh, crap. I died. But it's not heroic, so ta-da! I'm better than the last time. So that, in one way, that would indicate there's faster than light travel, but no, it's not. And there's a physicist named John Bell that had an experiment that they proved recently, let's say in the last 3 or 4 years, that there is no hidden variables, at least in that part of it. So it's funny that the same argument that someone tried to use to disprove quantum mechanics, which is some type of randomness, is the same one they use with, there's hidden variables. Kind of the same thing. So that's the binary part of this argument, you know, getting back to get full circle. So what does all this mean? It means I'm playing a division, trying to tie a lot of the different concepts I talked to you about to the purpose, just for you to, it's food for thought. This is normally when I say, well, I usually try to say it before I die. This is normally say, thank you for subscribing, liking, watching, commenting. My job has been a bear the last couple weeks, so it's hard for me to get some of this stuff out. Ooh, don't die. But I'm trying to give you a variety of things to look at. I know you don't want to see me always do legendary, but I also got to do something that I like too. So hopefully we're meeting halfway. So I want to thank you again. And I'll probably see you on Destiny. And if I get some good division footage, I'll get that going too. Thanks, everyone. Ronin Kazi, signing off.